Hello students, in the previous lectures we discussed about Victorian poets and their poems. Now we will discuss Indian poets from different regions of India. We have an anthology of poems and stories in our syllabus edited by Anna Korean, and this is the first poem which we are going to discuss. Is poetry always worthy when it is old? This poem is basically a translation of the famous Indian poets Kalidas, Bhabhuti, and Bhartari. Is poetry always worthy when it's old? Kalidas, Bhabhuti, and Bhartari, three are the major poets included in this poem. Kalidas, renowned Sanskrit poet and dramatist, lived from the mid 4th to the early 5th century. His works include Shakuntala and Meghdutta. His court drama, in a verse, related fanciful or mythological tales of romantic love, intensified and matured by adversity. Bhabhuti is also a Sanskrit poet and dramatist. He lived in early 8th century. His work was notable for its suspense and vivid characterization. He is known for his three plays, Mahavir Charitam, Malti Madhavam, and Uttar Ramcharitam. The third poet, Bhartari, he was a Sanskrit poet and a saint also, philosopher and grammarian. He lived in the later half of the 5th century. Vakya Padhyaya is his major work on the philosophy of language. Also ascribed to him are three collections of poetry, each containing 100 verses. His poetry reflects themes such as the wisdom of the world, love, and renunciation. About the poems. Now we will discuss about the poems. The first three selections are comments on the poetry. The poets contrast the value of time as a filtering device to the worth conferred on a poem by one reader who appreciates it and recognizes it as worthwhile. They also speak of the effect that poem should have on the reader, an effect comparable to what happens to someone when pierced by a dart. The third selection is an astute and cynical observation of the ways in which critics read to poetry, especially if it is incomprehensible to them. Their rejection of the work of those whom they cannot hope to match. Let's alone better is derided by the poet, an extremely pessimistic and dour vision that neglects any joy in man's life on this earth is the substance of the fourth selection. The bleakness of this vision can be related to those events and activities which are significant in human lives, work, and marriages. The last selection focuses on the love that exists between man and wife and the distress that accompanies parting. In a rhetorical manner, the wife wonders what she should say when her husband is about to depart from her and thinks of various options ranging from the plaintive to the cold and loveless. First, uh, First of all, we will discuss about is poetry always worthy when it's old, and it is worthless than because it's new. Reader, decide yourself if this be true. Fools suspend judgment, waiting to be told. Now we will discuss about the poet Kalidasa in detail. Kalidas is regarded as the greatest figure in classic Sanskrit literature. You must have heard his name. The name itself signifies a servant of the goddess Durga, that is also known as Kali. He was an illiterate person till, by the favor of the goddess, he suddenly found himself endowed with the poetic genius. There are so many stories and folklores are famous about Kalidasa. Whatever information we have about his life is based on external and secondary sources. His birthplace was perhaps somewhere in Malwa in central India. According to legends, he was a court poet of King Vikramaditya of Ujjain of Gupta dynasty. His best known plays is Abhigyan Shakuntala. You must have heard about this play. It's a famous drama written in verse and it is about the romantic love of Dushyant and Shakuntala. The play tells us of a maiden Shakuntala whom King Dushyant married. The king forgets his bride due to the curse of Rishi Durvasha. The play ends with the reunion of lovers after many years of parting. His other surviving plays are Vikram Varshe and Malavikagnimitra. These dramas in verse relate fanciful or mythological tales of lovers who are first separated by adversity but later united by happy chance. In his two epics, Raghuvansh and Kumar Sambhava, there is description of nature which is mingled with battle scenes. The other poem of Kalidas are shorter and almost purely lyrical. Meghduta is a description of the places in India crossed by a cloud traveling between a man and his wife. Here, Megh means cloud, work as a Duta means messenger. Uh, I, am I mean to say clouds work as a messenger. Ritu Sanhar is another famous creation of Kalidas. He described the course of pastoral love through the 6 seasons of the Indian calendar. Now we will discuss the quatrain, which is translated from Sanskrit to English by John Brough. It is originally written by Kalidasa in Sanskrit. Is poetry always worthy when it is old? And is it worthless than because it's new? Reader, decide yourself if this be true. Fools suspend judgment, waiting to be told. In this stanza, Kalidasa asks a question whether poetry is always worthy when it is old. No doubt, time is the greatest critic. When poetry stands the test of time, it means that it has some real worth in it. Some people have great esteem for antiquity. They value poetry only when it is old and has stood the test of time. Another question posed by the poet in the second line, and is it worthless then because it's new? The poet is asking a question that if a poetry is in the um, yeah, written just before some time, whether its newness makes it questionable. The poet leaves it to the reader to decide whether old is better than new. The poet finally says that only foolish or dull readers do not decide for themselves, but leave it to other people to tell them. Such readers depend upon critics or other readers to guide them about the worth of poetry. The stanza has been translated by John Brough from Sanskrit into English. Now, in the next class, we will discuss about another poet, Bhabhuti. Thank you.